You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. My name is Joyce DeRiga. I'm editor of the Chicago Catholic, and this is where we interview people who are making the news that we're covering in the Chicago Catholic, the newspaper for the Archdiocese of Chicago. So today our guest is Father Ryan Brady, and we're going to talk about the Mass of Healing for those suffering from addiction that he began last year and is having again this year on the day before Thanksgiving, November 22nd at 7 p.m. at, is it the same line of street? You can explain that, Father, but welcome, Father Ryan.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation to be here. And, it's just a great opportunity to talk about something that I think is dear to a lot of people's heart, yet they feel a little uncomfortable talking about out loud.
Amen. So do you want to talk about how it got started? The first Mass in your church?
I was ordained a priest in the spring of 2021, and we come to that fall, and it's the night before Thanksgiving, and I'm very familiar with a tradition that has started, an unfortunate tradition of what's called Blackout Wednesday, where people initially came home from college to celebrate Thanksgiving with their family, but now they're all with their old friends, and they started to overdo it when it comes to alcohol. And now it's an unfortunate festive occasion for many ages where people go out and they really overdo it. And I was sitting in the rectory the night before Thanksgiving, my first Thanksgiving weekend as a priest, and it just hit me in prayer and said, listen, why don't you go celebrate Mass for those who are really struggling with addiction, or who are really struggling with loneliness, of trying to stay sober on a night where so many people are going out. So I went to the church. The church was dark. I turned the light on over the altar so I could read the missal, and I celebrated Mass. I took a little photo and shared it on social media. And I said, look, there's a lot of people suffering from addiction today. And, we're going to pray for them. And I ask that you pray for them as well. The response was incredible. I had hundreds of people email, call, text message, share this on their social media. And I said, next year we'll do this publicly. Next year we'll open the doors and we'll invite everybody in. And we did it publicly for the first time last year. And the response was incredible. It was overwhelming, but it was also very heartwarming for people who were suffering from addiction, people who were in recovery from addiction, people who have never had a problem with addiction themselves, but their family has, and everyone in between. And it was just a great time to come together as one, as brothers and sisters, and pray for what really is a scourge in our society. There is an overwhelming number of people addicted to drugs or alcohol, pornography, or gambling, or whatever it is. It's all over. And I just hope to address it honestly, but with love, so that we can move forward in a healthy way.
And you said that you've already got people have been asking you if you're doing it again. So they're reacting well to it. Yeah.
Yeah. We had a number of people, even that night, the very first night, they says, oh, you're going to do it again, right, Father? You're going to do it again. And I laughed and I said, yeah, we'll do it again. And midsummer, people were saying, Thanksgiving will be coming, Father. Don't forget. So it's really heartwarming to see that the Spirit has really been at work in this, and it's warmed people's hearts to the idea that we should pray for people who are suffering from addiction.
And you were sharing before the show that then about the next day going to the hospital.
Yeah. So last year we celebrated Mass. It was November the 23rd, the night before Thanksgiving. The next day I was on my way to see my family for Thanksgiving dinner, and I got a phone call from Christ Hospital And I went to anoint a 22-year-old man who had a drug overdose. And I stayed there and prayed with him and his family uh, on Thanksgiving of all days.
Right.
You know, here's this family surrounding this loved one in bed suffering from the effects of a drug overdose. And sadly, he died a couple of days later, that Sunday, actually. And it really hit close to my heart, the fact that there were a couple hundred people praying for this young man the day before he had that overdose, who
Right.
never knew who he was, probably never ever will know who he is. Um, Addiction is a disease of isolation. Anybody who's close to you or who loves you, who wants to help you free yourself from this addiction, you push them all away because you're afraid of life without what you're addicted to. And that family, I think, was consoled by the idea that there were hundreds of people praying for their son who never even knew him. But also for the person who is addicted, it's important to know that people love you, people care for you, people want to help you. And those people are not just your family, but they're strangers even. I think we all have a responsibility to look after and to pray for one another. And then if the situation brings itself to you, to accompany that person, to be Christ to that person, to be the Good Samaritan to that person, it's really, really important to show people who are addicted that freedom is not only possible, but it's right in front of you and it can happen.
Do you want to share about your personal journey with it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I entered the seminary at 17 at St. Joseph's College Seminary in 2001. And I wasn't ordained until I was 37. And I mean, I'm a slow learner, but not like 20 years of seminary slow learner. I left the seminary at 20, and I ended up going back a number of years later. And what I didn't realize at 20 years old was that I was suffering from addiction to alcohol. And throughout my 20s, I really struggled with that. When I was 30, I had enough. I couldn't live that way anymore. I was going to die from my drinking. I was going to die from my addiction. And through the help of friends, through the help of loved ones, through the help of God more than anyone else, I had the worst day of my life, which actually turned out to be the greatest day of my life. The greatest blessing that I ever had was the day I became sober. It was March the 20th, 2014. And, I've been working with a number of friends who have lived like I did, who drank like I did, and now live free and sober like I am, and like I hope to continue to, and I hope to show other people that they can as well. I wouldn't be a priest today if it wasn't for my addiction. I wouldn't be able to address this issue from the pulpit or from my heart or
Right.
from the street corner or from wherever if it wasn't for my addiction. I think that divine providence in his straight way with crooked lines gave me this gift. I remember the first time I heard someone say that they were grateful they were an alcoholic, and I thought they were crazy. Who would be grateful for such a thing?
Right.
But now I get it. Now I understand that this was a gift given to me, even in the pain, the gift given to me to be able to help other people become free. Day in and day out, one day at a time. It's a perpetual journey of perseverance. But God's at our side. God doesn't jump leaps and bounds with us, but he holds us by the arm and he takes step by step. When we get ahead of ourselves is when we're jumping leaps and bounds. But God wants to journey with us step by step, day by day, so that we can live free, we can live sober, and we can live beyond what we ever imagined ourselves capable of. And, I'm so grateful for that, for my own sobriety, and then for the gift of it, to be able to share it with everybody else, that it's possible and it's real.
And you said Cardinal Supich encourages you to share your story. Must
Yeah.
be wonderful
So
to have the
last
support.
year, last year we talked about the mass, and he says, this is fantastic. He goes, these are people who are on the peripheries, whether they realize it or not. Sometimes we who were addicted or are addicted, we're hiding in plain sight. But we need God's healing. When I was ordained a priest, Cardinal Supich wrote a letter accepting me to the priesthood, and it was just an incredible moment. But in that letter, he also mentioned that my own life of sobriety is a gift, and it's a gift that I should share with my people, with my parishioners, but also with people in recovery, people who are struggling with addiction. It's amazing the way in which our ideas of addiction have changed over the last 10, 20, 30 years. The addict isn't simply the person, with a can of beer and a brown bag out on the street corner. The person could be in a boardroom, or the person could be on a job site. The fact of the matter is there are people who are struggling with addiction everywhere. And sometimes we con ourselves into believing that an addict looks like this, so therefore I'm not one. But we can be anywhere. And when we have that realization, we take this great leap of faith into saying, look, maybe I do have a problem, and it can be addressed, and I can live better than where I am now. And that's where the journey of recovery begins.
I think there's a lot of shame too when you're in those situations. You struggle because you don't want to do it, and then and you're in it. And I agree with the isolation part. Well, yeah, it all comes down to that. So how do you think faith helps people journey to sobriety and stay sober?
So I don't think it'd be possible without faith. And I would say that there's faith in God beyond the shadow of a doubt that is required to live a life free from addiction. God is stronger than I am, and God has a greater vision than I am. And I need to condescend my will to God's will so that I can live that great vision that God has for me. I need to have faith in myself. I need to see myself with God's eyes, to see what's capable. That vision that God has for me as his beloved son is far greater than my own vision for myself. And when I was suffering from that isolation and addiction, I was also lowering my expectations to what I thought I was capable of. I didn't believe that I could be, I didn't even believe I could be a decent human being, let alone the saint that God called me to be.
Right.
But I began to see with some clarity that God loves me still. God calls me to something great still. God calls me to be holy still. God calls me to be a saint still. And that's true for everybody. The Second Vatican Council talks about that very beautifully, the universal call to holiness. We are all called to be saints, and God gives us the tools to do it. Sadly, addiction, it ratchets up this noise in our hearts and in our heads so that we can't hear that still soft whisper of God saying, I love you. I want to care for you. I want to move you forward to holiness. So as I began to work with some friends who struggled with addiction, just like I did, they began to teach me how to live without the baggage that comes with addiction. They began to teach me how to live without that giant freight train of noise that's running through your heart and running through your ears, so that I could hear God whisper to me, this is the peace I long to give you. This is the gift I long to give you. And there was a very bright and kind man who told me one time, he goes, look how wonderful and charmed our life is as people in addiction recovery. We get to live 2 lives in 1 lifetime. We get to live the resurrection in this world. We who once were lost have now been found. And the lessons that we learn from the pain that we suffered can help alleviate the suffering of others. And I think that's very true. And I'm very grateful for it. At first, I was a little concerned about, well, what would people think? Now I don't even care. I just know that this is my gift. And I need to be open about it, because there are some heroes of mine who struggled with addiction. They were priests. They were lay people. And if they weren't honest about it, they weren't, carnival barkers screaming and yelling about what they had done, but they just said, I was once lost. I was once in pain, and now I'm free. And I know where I'm supposed to go, and I know who loves me. And they were open and honest about it. And I began to find in them hope. So there wasn't any sort of pride in it, but a very humble love that was a gift to me from them, and I hope to be able to share that gift to others as well.
That's the music telling us we're going to take a break, so we'll be right back. Don't go away. Thanks.
On Friday, December 1st at Catholic Charities' 2023 Spirit of St. Nicholas Ball at the Chicago Hilton. The Spirit of St. Nicholas Ball is one of the most elegant galas of the holiday season in Chicago, and proceeds provide critical funding for our programs and services into the new year. Gather your families, friends, and work colleagues for an extraordinary black tie event to celebrate the Christmas season. Enjoy an opening reception, gourmet meal, and live entertainment courtesy of the Ken Arlen Orchestra, all in support of Catholic Charities. Don't miss this special night for a great cause on Friday, December 1st. To purchase tickets and learn about sponsorships for the Spirit of St. Nicholas Ball, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-948-6864. That's 312-948-6864.
Always say, how can you spend your day with 3-year-olds? Seeing the changes that they go through and just the journey and how they grow, this is a very rewarding job. Even though at the end of the day, we're not the highest paid people on earth. And when I have a parent contact me and say, my child loves school, that to me, I'm setting that foundation for their love of learning, because really you are changing lives, you are molding lives.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship programs provide a free opportunity for young adults to spend time with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youth aged 9 through 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer, and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports every relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that can help young adults build confidence and enjoy fun activities with their peers, too. To learn more, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7970 in Cook County and 847-782-4224 in Lake County. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. My name is Joyce DeRiga. I'm editor of the Chicago Catholic. And before we go back to our guest, I want to just plug the newspaper. If you want to see what's going on and around the Archdiocese, go to chicagocatholic.com. We come on about every 2 weeks. You can sign up for a subscription. It's $30 for a year, and that helps support our ministry. You can also sign up for our free newsletter that I send out about 3 times a week. where you'll get the news as it's going on, stuff from the Vatican, what the Cardinal's doing. And in our latest issue, we have tributes to Bishop Perry and Bishop Vippick, who both retired. And then there were some peace walks going around in the Archdiocese. St. Benedict the African School in Inglewood held their annual peace walk around the neighborhood. So there's some really cute pictures there. And coming up in the next issue, we have a story about a new program that the Archdiocese has started to support priests in their professional and spiritual development. And Cardinal Supich is writing about the unfortunate news that the Invest in Kids tax credit scholarship program has ended, in the which enabled many tens of thousands of families to attend Catholic schools throughout the state. So that's ChicagoCatholic.com. And I'm welcome back Father Ryan Brady, who's associate pastor of Our Lady of the Ridge St. Linus in Oak Lawn. But Our Lady of the Ridge is in Chicago Ridge, right?
That's right.
Yeah. But so he's holding on November 22nd at 7 p.m. the Mass, with the title Massive Healing for Those Suffering from Addiction. And this is the second time he's hosted it. And it's a I mean, you can't get a more relevant topic to people it's in every family, like you said, or somebody, or you may not realize you know somebody. But so the Mass will be at St. Linus Church in Oak Lawn. So people can join, people who are addicted, people who know somebody who's addicted. They just want to pray for people. So last year when I interviewed you, Father, you talked about how addiction isn't a moral failure. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so for a long period of time, people just assumed that there was some sort of weakness in the person who struggled with addiction. It was a moral failure. And that's just simply not true. So much of our understanding of addiction has blossomed to allow us to realize that this is a disease, and it's not a moral failure. And if I could just read this from St. Paul, I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Those same words have been spoken by people who were addicted to drugs or alcohol 2,000 years later.
Right.
There was no moral weakness in St. Paul in that moment. If nothing else, there was a profound clarity. And I think that same thing can be said for people who struggle with addiction. Is there's not a moral weakness here. And yes, there's shame in doing what we continue to do, even though we know we shouldn't. But there shouldn't be so much shame that we run and hide from our God, who longs to free us and who longs to save us. There is something incredibly imprisoning. It literally chains you to the thing that longs to kill you.
Yeah.
In addiction, and it's not a moral failure. It's really a painful imprisonment, and there's a fear to live without the very thing that kills you, and everything in your life begins to warp itself around this thing. I've had some great debates with people about whether or not it's just a weakness or a choice. And I'll tell you, there was a time where I made a choice to drink. And there was a point in my life, and I don't know where and I don't know when, that I crossed that line, this invisible line in the sand, and I crossed it and I was never able to come back. And the fact of the matter is that once that line is crossed, there is no going back to saying I can drink or want to drink normally. We're stuck. And what we need is a glimpse of freedom, and the assistance of others to achieve that freedom.
Amen. How about, do you have any advice for people that aren't addicted, who have family or loved ones and are really worried or, really worried about and want to do something for the people that they know who are addicted?
First, don't give up hope. Don't give up hope at all, ever. I've seen absolute miracles in front of me. I've seen answered prayers in front of me from people who suffer from addiction. St. Monica is a very famous example of a woman who prayed diligently for her son, Augustine, whose birthday is today, actually.
Oh.
she prayed and prayed and prayed for her son, St. Augustine, who was addicted to lust and addicted to a quest for power. And I think that perseverance came from Monica because she was addicted to alcohol. Her very son said that in the Confessions.
I didn't know that. And I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, in the I think it's the 9th book of the Confessions, Augustine says she was a notorious imbiber, which is a very polite way of saying mom had a drinking problem.
Amen.
But she got sober. She never drank again, and I think that type of resilience helped fortify her
Wow.
in this prayer for her son. If I can overcome this, so can my son. And the fact of the matter is if I can overcome, my need to drink every day through the help of others, so can you. So can your son. So can your daughter. So can your husband. And tell them to not try to do it alone. And the other thing too, for those people who struggle with their loved ones who suffer from addiction, I sometimes think it's harder than the person who's addicted themselves. The addict is so wrapped up in what they're addicted to, but the loved one is an innocent bystander who has to see with clear hearts and clear eyes the person they love suffering in front of them. And I would say, don't do it alone. There are other people who suffer with their family struggling from addiction, just like you are. Don't do it alone. Disease of isolation. That's what addiction is. And it's not just for the person who's imbibing. So often families begin to isolate themselves around the addict as well. And I would say to try to break free from that. I celebrate Mass every single day. And every time I look out, no matter which church, no matter which place I'm at, I see people I know from recovery. We're everywhere. We're in the pews. We're in your grocery stores. We're in everywhere. Well, not everywhere, probably not the bars and taverns, but most places we are. And you wouldn't think it, but we're here for each other. And I mean, I don't make a point of going out of my way to say hello to them always, but we always look at each other and we nod and we know we're not alone. We're not alone. And in my most ordinary day or the most complex day, I know that I can pick up my phone and call dozens and dozens of people who will answer when I say, I'm having a good day, I'm having a bad day, I need some help, I just need someone to talk to. We're here for each other. So I would say reach out. There's every parish in the diocese has a telephone number. Give them a call. Find out where the closest groups of people are, or people who are parishioners to you that can help you, that would be willing to pick up the phone and talk to you about how they've journeyed through this crisis of addiction in their own hearts and in their own family.
I'm so glad you're doing this and you're so public about it, because I think, as you said, it's a disease of isolation. So we might not know that the person is addicted, or if we do, like you said, there's a lot of pain in watching that person go down that path, and we need to talk about it more. I know there's more of a movement now for abstinence. Maybe with I've seen it mostly with the alcohol stuff, but that maybe that's people are realizing more and more that this is coming. That how destructive this is, and trying to get help in any form, like you said, whether it's pornography. I've always wanted to do a story on the addiction to pornography and how the faith can help with that. I think the Archbishop in St. Louis once did a pastoral letter on addiction to pornography, which I thought was huge. So I'm super glad you're doing this. I think we're almost out of time. So I want to plug the Mass one more time. It's November 22nd, 7 p.m., St. Linus in Oak Lawn. You can just Google St. Linus if you need directions, or you can also, if you didn't write this down, you can go to chicagocatholic.com. This is in the events section. And Father, thank you so much for sharing your testimony and for doing this Mass and for just being who you are. You're a good friend of the Chicago Catholic. So I appreciate you. All right, you have a good day, and we'll be there at the Mass, so I'll see you next week.
I'm looking forward to it. God bless you, all right?
You too. Bye, Father. Bye, everybody.